Good morning, everyone. Melissa just spoke to you about challenges that REU students face in general, and for the next few minutes I want to highlight problems or challenges that minority students face in particular. I've been fortunate to run an REU program since 2008. Those pictures that you see there are different cohorts of students that we've been working with since that time. And I think I'd like to take a moment just to thank someone who has been a great mentor to me for the last several years. Is Daphne in the room? I didn't see her this morning. Hey, Daph. Daphne has been a mentor to me since I started, and I put this plug here because we have some new PIs in the room, and I just want to encourage you to find someone in your directorate to whom you can get close to and who could be a mentor to you, because it's very useful. I was introduced to Daphne by the then program officer Bradley Small, and ever since then she's been a dear friend. And Daph, I thank you for all that you have deposited in me. It also said that you ought to listen to your program officers. They do know what they're saying. And so we've been successful for these years, and our program is primarily minority driven. As you've seen, we have over 60% or so of our students over these 8-9 years have been minority students. We're up in New York City, the City University of New York, the largest urban public institution in the US. We have almost 500,000 students, and so we have a great diverse pool of students to draw from. So I'll share with you a little bit of what we have learned over these years as it relates to our minority students. They come to us with what I call pre-REU program pressures. They come to us, many of them are weak in math and they lack the foundations that are necessary for quality work. They are inadequately prepared. And much of what I'll say for the next few moments will hopefully be unpacked in the working session, since we have a time limitation here. Many of them come to us, they know nothing about research. They know nothing about how to think like a researcher, how to approach a problem. They come to us with no experience at all. Many of them are insecure about thinking and working independently. And many of them lack real STEM experiences. They're very limited in their STEM exposure. Many of our students are first-generation students, and that has its own series of issues. Number one, they have no local support, and by local support, I mean support at home or within the family structure, as far as giving guidance as to how to approach and to navigate the academic system. They also have this burden of representing the group. Being the first one from your group who comes to college, you feel as if you have to make sure you're successful because Mama and Papa and Grandma depend on you, and so they come to us with this burden of representing the entire group. They also come with a burden of disrupting what I call the intergenerational continuity. That is, there's this custom that you're supposed to play a certain role within your family structure. And going to college and going to an REU program is usually not part of that system. Oftentimes, we find that our students have dual identities. They have one identity at home and they have a separate identity on campus. And simply because at home they just can't project this image of being scholarly, because it's not often accepted. So I want to see these issues as part of what I would like to mention about Pascal's Principle. You remember Pascal's Principle? I know you do. It's this basic principle in fluid mechanics, and it talks about a static, incompressible fluid. And if you apply pressure at one point, that pressure is transmitted unmitigated, undiminished throughout the entire fluid. And I find that that's true for many of our REU students. They come to us with the pressures I just talked about, and those pressures multiply as they go through the entire system. And so the old Pascal's Principle, if you apply a force F1 of some 10 newtons over an area of 5 square centimeters. That force gets transmitted throughout the whole fluid, and as you get to the bottom of the fluid, that force is now, if the area at the bottom is 100 times greater than the area on top, then the force at the bottom is 100 times greater than the force at top. My point is that as they go through the system, our students have issues that are multiplied over time. Some of these issues that they face as they go through the program, the REU program, in addition to the ones that Melissa spoke about, are the following. Stereotyping. Many of our students, and I speak to them regularly, they think that sometimes they were selected to the program because someone is trying to fill some diversity quota. And they really wonder, am I really selected because of my academic performance, or am I just a token? That's one of the issues they face. Another one is unsupported learning environments. They oftentimes don't feel as if the learning environment is supporting enough and understanding enough of their backgrounds and indeed their culture. Many times they're intimidated, they feel disconnected, no sense of belonging, as Melissa said for her own case, to the community of scholars that they are joining. They feel like outsiders. They really do, and they feel marginalized and alienated, and they also have a sense of loneliness. Another issue they face is that there is this, we're supposed to give them $500 or so per week for the REU programs, and I've had many students wrestle with the idea of accepting an REU position or going to work in the summer for maybe a little bit higher wages, simply because they have to meet the basic essentials of life. They have to pay the bills, and they have babies at home or children at home, parents at home who are depending on them, and so they wrestle with whether or not they should accept this program or join this program or go to work. Another issue they face is that sometimes they feel that they have to constantly prove themselves at every point, that people don't think that they're as good as they are supposed to be. And so the REU students who are minority students join our programs with this extra burden of every moment trying to show that they're as good as or better than their counterparts. So here's what I recommend that we can do to help. We need to be more culturally sensitive to these students. We need to provide an inviting atmosphere. We need to let them feel welcome to the program that we are running. We have to establish a program that is inclusive and is recognized for its champion for diversity causes. We have to expose our students to STEM careers. Even in our REU, we want to maybe think about how we can infuse some STEM careers into our programs. We need better mentorship of our students in URMs, and our program in New York City, we have a tiered mentoring system, which hopefully I'll be able to talk with you about at some other point. Students need hands-on training. They need enrichment supports, technical and non-technical. When they come to us with needs and gaps, and if they're going to be successful in the REU programs, then we have to find ways to help them to get over the hump. We need to provide them with role models, and role models primarily who look like them or at least have the perspective that they do. We need to not just pay lip service to diversity. They're got to be careful not just to talk diversity, but we have to demonstrate a commitment to it. In our recruitment, we just heard from NSF, in our recruitment we have to, I think, be more intentional and focus on the HBCUs, the tribal colleges, and these minority-serving institutions. But we have to do more than just send an email or send a flyer somewhere. That is just too passive. One of the things that you could do is to send a message or a flyer to a dean or to a chairperson of a department that has some environmental studies going on. And on your flyers, you ought to say that minority students are encouraged to apply. That gives them the idea that someone is really thinking about them on the other end. On a system-wide basis, I think the system, and perhaps this is before they come to us, the system has to do better in exposing students to STEM earlier, because they come to college without the full understanding of what it takes to be college ready and what college-level STEM courses are all about. What we can do as REU program directors is to offer or administer pre-REU program enrichment. So perhaps a week before you start the program, you have them come on in and you have some enrichment preparing them for the work that lies ahead. That's something that you may want to consider. So as I close here, one of the benefits of Pascal's Principle is that even though you may have issues as you start on the left with a small piston, if you overcome those issues, what you can actually do on the right is that you can end up lifting a much bigger weight. Point is that they may come to us with all these issues, but if you help them to get through, then success is just there awaiting them. They can do it. I know they can. I'm just encouraging you to take it seriously and find ways to work with our minority communities, and we can then change the landscape of STEM in this country. Thank you very much.
Are we allowed to ask a question?
Yes.
Could we borrow that presentation to give to our faculty mentors to help them understand what they're getting themselves into when they mentor a student? Because that's a great presentation. Thank you.
And Shelley, it's recorded and we will have it online. I agree. They're both really meaningful.